Hello and welcome back to Genesis Designs and Modelcraft, and have I got something to look at today. So the observant among you will have noted that this is not labelled as a quick look review, and that's because it isn't going to be quick. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to talk about things to do with this, have a very good close look at what you get in this beautifully decorated box, because I believe this kit marks something of a turning point, maybe a beginning of certain things in the hobby, and I think it's important to look at it and talk about it. So this kit then, the Airscale Pro 1/32 scale bolt and pull Defiant. If you haven't already seen this, here it is. I'd imagine many of the people watching are familiar with this kit. If you're not familiar with Airscale, then shame on you. Airscale is a small one-man company, one-man operation, actually, that previously or up until now have been known for initially actually decals. So the proprietor of the company, Peter Castle, started out doing decals, and that sprang from creating a decal instrument panel for a build that he was doing himself way back in 2010, the Airfix 1/24 scale Mosquito. He decided to improve the instrument panel of that kit, and from that point then released new instrument panels for all the other 1/24 scale kits that were around at the time, and then went into just doing the dials. And this is where I first came across Airscale as a company, was the sheets of various different style instrument panel decals that were being done, just the dials, not the entire panel, just the dials, which allowed the modeller to use them as they wish, to utilise them as they wish. If you're not familiar with Peter's work, then I do suggest visiting Large Scale Planes Forum. Personally, I don't really go to many forums anymore, but Peter's work is worth a visit. So I'll try and remember to put a link down below. The Large Scale Planes Forum is a good one. It's a pretty nice place, quite non-toxic, but his work is worth a look. He basically scratch builds, in the truest sense of the word, 1/18 scale models, and they are frankly beautiful, so they're well worth a look. And it's during the course of doing this work that he essentially, obviously we all became familiar with 3D printing along the way, and some modelers have picked up the baton and started making their own stuff, and Peter is one of them. And he took on a project to design a complex part. It was actually in a cell for a large scale Beechcraft model being built by another modeller, and it turned out to be a lot more complicated than he at first thought it might be, and he was heard to say at the completion of this project, I may as well do a full kit, and this essentially is what has sprung from that throwaway comment. This is a full kit, and this is a fully 3D printed large scale kit, and it isn't the first such kit on the market, but it is among the first such kits on the market, and it's because of that I do feel that it's worth taking my time and having a really good look at it, and really discussing the points of 3D printing as a whole. Is it even suitable really for something like this? I did have a chat with Peter on the phone about all of this, and I will sort of add a few of the thoughts that came from that chat throughout this review. But initially I wanted this. I saw the renders and things around the hype that surrounded the release of it, and as I am a modeller, I wanted it, and then I persuaded myself that I didn't need it, because I do have a lot of models already. And then when the release date actually came, I thought I'd be safe because I was out in my car driving around, and then I ended up pulled over in a lay-by at the side of the road ordering the kit anyway. It's a tragic tale. So the kit then, £300. Let's start at the beginning. It's 295 plus postage, so I think it cost me £303 or something like that to have this kit delivered to my door. It was shipped beautifully packed, and this is what you initially get when you open the box. This is what you see. So this is in fact a slipcase. Absolutely delicious painting on the front there, featuring part of the story of this aircraft, and this is one of the 2 aircraft for which the kit provides markings. There's a little information on each side for the 2 that are included within the kit. And then this is the box, and it's not just any box. This is one of those Gucci magnetic flippy boxes, the type you normally see high-end watches in. Absolutely delightful. And upon opening it, there we go, I'll take the instructions out of the way, and this is what you're presented with. It's clearly a very high quality product. It's clearly a deliberately very high quality product. Peter is very much aware that he's asking a high price for this kit, so he took a great deal of time to ensure that it was as correct as possible, and a great deal of time to ensure that the modeller felt like they were receiving something that was worth that high price. So where do I even start? I'll start with the transparencies. Now, as you can see, there are various different things packed in bubble wrap bags, not just plastic bags, bubble wrap bags, and then you've got a load of these 3D printed baskets of goodness as well. So I'll start with the only injection moulded parts in the kit, and right from the get-go, including injection moulded parts in the kit adds a great deal of cost for Peter, because there's no such thing as getting injection moulded parts made cheaply. And here they are. And they are beautifully done. As you can see, there's not a flaw on them. Optically, they're exceptional. Put my finger under it, there you go. Zero distortion. Very beautifully finished. Crisp, well-defined framing without it being big and over the top. Multi-part turret glazing. You've got navigation light lenses there, which are hollow, and landing lamp lenses as well. And that's it. These are the only injection moulded parts in this kit. So I asked Peter why he decided to make a full kit and why he decided to make the Defiant. And you know, the making has kind of been covered with the seeding, the germination of the idea, and the throwaway comment. The Defiant was chosen because, in his words, it's not the most exciting or well-known aircraft, but he felt it deserved a bit of recognition, and I'm inclined to agree with that. Through my research and working on the Airfix 48 scale Defiant for my Even More Modelling for Beginners series, I have grown to appreciate the aircraft a lot more. I secondarily asked why 1/32 scale when Peter is basically very well known for doing larger scale stuff, and it's essentially it's a combination of cost and a sort of availability piece. He was aware that if he did it in 1/18 it would be prohibitively expensive probably, and also very, very large, and he actually feels that 1/32 scale is a little bit underserved for a scale that pretty much ticks all the boxes really. Most subjects are roughly the right size. You can get a lot of detail in without things becoming overly complex. It just sits in a nice place as far as he's concerned, and again I'm inclined to agree. So more bags then. Shall we look at the main parts first? Come to those bits later. So in these bubble wrap packets we have the outer wing panels. There we go, 2 of. Fully 3D printed and in fact hollow. With some fairly substantial sort of spar stubs to attach them to the inner wings. And some really rather lovely surface detail moulded right on in. Shouldn't say moulded because it isn't. Lovely recessed, very crisp, very fine representation of the flush riveting of the real aircraft and of course panel lines. And it all looks very good, doesn't it? Then this bubble wrap bag contains the inner wings. There we go. Again, similarly, very fine included surface detail. This is the, I can't remember what that is now. It's the self-destruct patch. I can't remember the technical term, but Andy Long did explain it to me. It's a canvas cover essentially for, I think it's a flare port or something like that, where the pilot, if he crashes and needs to destroy the aircraft, he can pop that and it sets it on fire effectively. So that's the top surface. It's very representative of what you're getting throughout the kit. And there's the undersurface and the really rather beautifully detailed wheel well area. Put those over here. Okay, now I'll do this the right way, unlike Mr. Hago. The rest of the main airframe resides within these packs here. So this is the central fuselage area, including the cockpit and the turret opening, and it is produced in 2 halves. And again, the detail is just completely lovely. I'll take the elastic band out of the equation and open it up. Here we go. Here's your interior detail as it comes. And simply sublime wheel well detail. Now I'm going to come back to fit and finish later on, so I won't labour on that right now. I'll come back to that when we've looked at all the parts. This packet contains, I haven't even been in this one yet, contains the rear fuselage, again, all one part, and hollow. It's more of that fabulous surface detail, with the added bonus of a complete lack of a seam joint along the middle to deal with. The fin is created integrally, and stubs of the tail planes. I'm a little confused as to the choice of breaking the tail plane where it is, because if you look at the, if the camera will ever focus, if you look at that, the fillet, the actual tailplane fillet panel finishes before this joint, so that means this joint here is going to have to be made good in its entirety. So that's a slightly odd choice. And the final major piece of the puzzle is the nose. This is the nose cowling area. Again, all in one piece, and again it's hollow with all the vents and intakes moulded. I keep saying moulded, I can't help it. Produced as open. Does have the raised Zeus fastener detail that you all know I'm such a fan of. It's beautifully produced, and if I don't think it's going to show, but down that intake, that is the carburettor intake, but it also includes, there's an oil cooler in there as well. And when you look down there, you can see the front of the oil cooler reproduced. That might be working, but you can also see the two intakes either side of it. There's an intake which comes up to the carburettor, and again from the back it's also already hollowed out. And upon closer inspection with the torch on my mobile phone, the rear face of the oil cooler is also represented down there, which you can't even see, and you absolutely won't be able to see when the model is built, there's no way. So that's the main airframe stuff covered. On top of that then we have all these basket thingies. There's probably some kind of industrial name for these, which I don't know, but I'm just going to say baskets, little baskets from the Defiant Parts supermarket. Each one is labelled Box C, Bolt and Pull Defiant. So I might as well start with Box C, so that's what is in my hand. I'm going to put my scientist glasses on so I can see properly. This is mostly, but potentially not completely, parts for, no, I think it is all parts for the turret. And I mean, the detail is just, it's staggering, honestly. I don't want to snip these boxes up to show you the parts properly. I will apologise for that, but I'd rather keep the kit you know, fresh within reason, just in case. If I start snipping it all up, it won't be a proper kit anymore. But I think I'm going to hold it still for a few seconds while I jibber jabber on. That detail is, it's delicious, isn't it? Try and peep and peer all the way down to the bottom there. You can see all kinds of gubbins, machinery, linkages. It's fabulous. Pop that back in its slot just there. I did remove the tail planes from whichever box they came out of. As I say, I'll come to these later because these are part of the chat on fit and finish. So let's move to this basket here. Shall I call them boxes, since that's what's written on? This is box D. This contains undercarriage doors, tyres, wheels and landing lamps. Look at the landing lamps. They already have that three-legged bracket thing moulded right on in. Sorry, printed in situ, in thin air, with a bulb holder and everything. There's also detail behind them, and the little compartment that these are in the lead, fixed within it in the leading edge. There's detail in that as well. The tyres are smooth, and I can't see any representation of manufacture or anything like that. And the undercarriage doors are detailed on both sides. Some of them include a bit of bracketry and hinge points, and they're delightfully thin. They do represent the real thing really rather well. And down in the bottom there you can see wheel hubs, inner and outer. So this box is labelled ABS box. This is a different material. The normal 3D print resin it's remarkably frangible. It's quite delicate in some ways. It will break and it will shatter with aplomb if encouraged. You do have to be very, very careful with all aspects. It sands really, really nicely and it's quite hard in that respect, but if you knock it or bend it or try and flex it, it will just snap. And it doesn't just snap, it shatters. So it's kind of a really strong material, which is also at the same time very, very weak. So this box is moulded out of a slight, I do keep saying moulding, I'm so sorry, but you know what I mean. This is made from a different material, which is more flexible and thus less likely to shatter on contact with a harsh adjective. In here we have, as one might expect, a pair of undercarriage legs. The actual machine gun arrangement, the 4 303 machine guns and their operating gubbins, a pilot's seat with integral control column, or at least it's printed integrally. Obviously it wasn't, strictly speaking, integral in real life, and the throttle quadrant with all of its levers and controls in place. So there's your guns. Next to it is the seat. See down the bottom next to it is the throttle assembly, and then the pair of undercarriage legs there. All very, very nice. Next up then, going round it the wrong way, a little bit of excess material there. This is box A. What we have in here, the radiator housing, rudder, elevators and ailerons, spinner, propeller spinner and propeller hub and back plate, some exhaust mounting areas, exhausts themselves, this is where I took the tailplanes from, propeller blades, a pitot, the retractable aerial that goes under the rear fuselage in both long and short form, and the crew entry step, which contains the appropriate detail that needs to be seen when the step is deployed. There is also some very visible faceting on this. This is the retractable deck fairing for the turret. This was actually a fabric covered part on the real thing, so that faceting is prototypical. And talking of fabric covering, the rib tapes on these control surfaces are beautifully restrained and very, very nicely done actually, which is nice. The radiator fairing has the radiator inside it already printed with very, very lovely faces, and the outlet scoop door is moulded open. The exhausts also, as you can see, have hollowed out ends already. You've got fishtail exhaust and the round stub exhaust style there. There's the fairing. See the propeller spinner and hub down there. The exhaust attachment areas which fit inside that nose piece. If I can get the light to work on that radiator, can't quite do it. It's all just absolutely wonderful to behold, honestly. Okay, and finally for what is in this box right now, box B, and what was missing? Well, the cockpit. So this is in fact cockpit parts, and again it's It's rendering me almost speechless. I can't think of any more superlatives to throw at it. It's absolutely beautiful. It just makes you want to snip things and start putting paint on. Just look at that. This is a level of detail that I have never seen in a kit. Straight from the box. Yes, it's an expensive box, but I've never seen anything like this. It wants a for nothing. It's a cockpit floor this end, it's the rear part. And you've got instrument panel, radio boxes and such. Sidewall stuff in between. All the little switches are moulded there. Buttons, dials, it's all there. Rudder pedals are integral to the floor, already moulded in, printed. I'm going to use those words interchangeably, I give up. Sorry. Okay, so that's all of that. And then these two packets here. This one is a pair of replacement landing lights. I've checked the instructions. I'm unsure whether that's just spare parts in case you ham fist the first pair, or if it's a errata. This one here contains a set of propeller blades, and on the side is printed "Use these blades!" exclamation mark. So obviously there is some kind of perceived problem with the propeller blades that are, I think, in one of these other boxes. I forget which one. Doesn't matter, does it? But the blades are wonderfully fine, feature a beautiful twist, as they actually should, and have proper hub detail. Again, simply stunning. It's nothing short of wonderful from start to finish, really. So now what I want to talk about a little bit is the material being used, and this is something I talked with Peter himself at a fairly great length about. I think it would be reasonable potentially for most people to think, on seeing the CAD drawings and the photographs latterly of some of these parts, to think that this was going to be just the ultimate super detailed project that's just going to fly together because it's designed and produced with such microscopic precision. And I can assure you it is designed and produced with microscopic precision. But the problem is that 3D printing does have drawbacks, which Peter was unable to completely eradicate those drawbacks from this kit. And those drawbacks, the drawbacks I'm talking about, are the layer lines, if you like. The print lines that I'm sure most are familiar with. You'll see a little bit of evidence of them on most 3D printed parts, but I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up very well. You can clearly see the layer lines on this undersurface. Maybe here, a little bit of music there. Now, I spoke to Peter about this when I got my kit initially, because a few of my parts, and this was one of them actually, you can see it's got this irregularity across here. This isn't a panel line, this is something the printer's just decided to add by itself. My original nose, this is the original one, which I've actually put some silver paint. You can see how smooth this is, but this has got a hole actually and some irregularities here and around the front, and he, without any quibbling or nonsense, replaced the nose, the rear fuselage, and the outer wing panels of my kit. no messing at all. And in fact, he volunteered to give me a refund for the entire kit if I didn't feel the kit was for me, because I wasn't expecting this level of texture on the parts. So why did I not expect to see so much evidence of the printing process on the parts? Well, it's quite simple really. It's because in the advertising and preamble before the release of the kit, it's written that the printing finesse is at 30 microns, and 30 microns isn't a lot. So my expectation based on that was that they would be borderline invisible, but they're not. They're not invisible, they're very much visible, and obviously Peter himself is very aware of this. The issue is that this is inevitable with the current levels of technology and with the equipment currently owned by Airscale. This is the best quality possible, and so a great deal of attention was paid to the alignment of the parts during the printing process to alleviate this sort of scalloping issue as much as possible, but also to make sure that the heaviest of these scallops are in a position that's less relevant on the model. Therefore, the pieces have been aligned such that the worst of it is on the undersurfaces, which is factually across the kit the worst of the issues are in areas that are less visible. That is also the reason why there is only recessed detail, because this is going to have to be sanded. There's no two ways about it. This will have to be sanded and or primed to get rid of these marks completely. Some modellers may not be fussed, some modellers may do it just as it is, other modellers may find they've got quite a lot of work on their hands to sort all of this stuff out. By the same token, the fit of the parts, again. Initially I looked at this and thought, well, that's not too cracking, is it? It doesn't fit together beautifully at all. And this comes down to the same thing. Despite the design of these parts being down to the very last micron, and the fact that these parts are perfect on the computer, that doesn't actually translate to perfect parts being printed out. And these do require a little bit of prep. I don't know if it's really visible, but there are some little spikes left over from the removals process, so it may very well be that when these are cleaned up they will fit together perfectly, but the fact is some modelling is going to have to be done here. And Peter himself said, and I'll paraphrase that his expectation was that a reasonable amount of skill would be required to get a really good model out of these parts. And the problem with that is trying to get that across to your market without sounding like an arse, frankly. Which he himself admits maybe he hasn't done a good enough job of that. But yeah, this is absolutely without a doubt a premium and extremely excellent product, but it is also equally without a doubt, there is equally little doubt that modelling wise this is going to require some skill and some effort to get the best out of it. And that's even without worrying about how fragile some of these parts are. Those of you that also follow Jamie Hago's Scale Modelling Cafe, I'm sure there are many of you, will have seen the issues he's already caused himself by being a klutz when putting this together. And as far as sanding the lines out goes, I'm seeing a lot of phrases being bandied about like a couple of swipes with a sanding stick, that old chestnut. No, it's going to take more than that. This tail plane I've cleaned up to the point where none of the scallops are evident to my finger, which is good enough. I can still see them, I can see marks where they were, but I can't feel them, so I'm happy that when paint is applied to this tail plane it will look fine. Here's roughly what it looked like before. trying to angle that so the lines are visible, it's really difficult. But again, put it next to the mic. A little bit of Genesis ASMR there. Very clearly visible print lines on the undersurface and in fact on the upper surface. It took me around about 10 solid minutes of sanding with an actual sanding stick, not a flipping sponge, to remove them, because the resin in the context of being sanded like this is quite tough. Better, but it's not quite there. Just to show you, it will take several minutes to do this, and obviously there's quite a lot of surface area here, so you're going to have to factor in at the very least priming it and expecting to rub that primer back. I would argue that you're better off prepping the parts before you prime it, because that way you can see whether you've lost the detail, and it will be easier to see the detail to then reinstate it. So it's a real shame that on the one hand the media giveth by giving you this beautiful surface detail throughout the whole model, but on the other hand it takes it away, because you are going to have to reinstate some of this detail by the time you've gotten rid of all of these printing layers. This is not meant as criticism, incidentally. I'm simply trying to present this in its entirety. It would be really easy for me to sit here and say to you, wow, this is incredible, because it is, and completely gloss over the effort that will be required by the modeller, and skill, frankly, that will be required by the modeller to get this thing together. Again, that carries on. I don't know if these fit properly, I haven't tried them. With these spars, they're so precise in their placement that the slightest bit of angle means they don't go in. Much like precise fits in real engineering terms, they have to be fitted correctly for them to fit. This is the same, and bear in mind that these, as much as they're big, thick, strong looking posts, they'll snap really happily. If you get it stuck and start pulling at it like this, you're going to break stuff. I already did that. I did a test fit, for want of a better word, with the outer wing panels, and I found that these just aren't quite right. The spacing's just a tiny bit off. I got it in a little way, and then it was getting stuck, and I thought, I'm going to stop this now and take it out, and in doing so managed to do this, and you can see I've shattered the trailing edge. Come on camera, I know it's hot. I've shattered that right off, and I'm now going to have to rebuild that area myself. I can do it, but this is because I was too excited and got carried away trying to fit the parts together. What's going to have to happen is that I will have to slim these posts down a little or enlarge these holes a little, so that slips in a bit more easily. Like I say, it's going to require effort and it's going to require skill, but the basics are there for an absolutely outstanding replica to come from these parts. Anyway, let's carry on with the rest of what you get in the box, because there's more. There's this beautiful instruction booklet. I don't think I'd be out of line to say that somebody was inspired a little bit by Wingnut Wings here, but I for one absolutely love the style of this. As you can see, it says Air Publication 1592 Alpha. It's written in the style of an AP from the period, because it's all typed like they were back then. I just love it. I just love it. I've got here in my excessive collection of books reprints of Air Publications for a couple of aircraft. The Spitfire 5, this one is. It's literally a reprint of the period AP. As you can see, this is Air Publication 1565E, Volume 1 and Pilot's Notes. It was originally typed. It's very obvious that it was originally typed. Take note of the style of figures. This is literally the workshop manual for a Spitfire 5, and that's the style this is printed in. I don't know if this number is of relevance. I should have asked. So, Airscale 1/32 scale, the Defiant 1 aeroplane, Merlin 3 engine, prepared by direction of the Minister of Aircraft Production, promulgated by order of the Air Council, Air Ministry, for official use only. He should have written not subject to amendment in there somewhere, shouldn't he? Oh, I'm getting carried away. Let me take these other parts out of the way. So first things first, inside the front cover we've got an introduction, which I will read to you. Kit introduction. Welcome to Airscale's first kit, the Bolt & Pull Defiant Mark 1. Largely comprised of 3D printed parts, careful assembly will reward with a fine model of this historic aircraft. While every effort has been made to produce the highest quality parts, you will find you do need to prepare mating edges on major parts and will need to fill the odd gap or chip in the resin. It is recommended that parts are separated and primed with Mr. Surfacer 1500, with some surfaces needing a quick flick over with an 800 grit sanding sponge to take any unavoidable layer lines down. However, my feeling was, having done my best, you would rather have a 1/32 Defiant that needed a bit of involvement than no Defiant at all. I hope you enjoy your build, Peter Castle. These are the two aircraft, the markings for which are included in the kit, and these are history pieces. These were written by Andy Long about the two aircraft and photographs of the aircraft in question. Actual photographs, not just drawings. I won't read those to you, but I will move this up so that if you pause the video you should be able to read that for yourself if you wish. The next page is parts layout. There are no numbers on the parts themselves, so everything is identified via these 3D projection drawings showing you which pieces are which, and I would suggest that careful consideration will need to be given to these throughout the build. There's a note here saying if you've not worked 3D parts before, please see our instructional video at this website address for the best way to remove parts from their supports without damage. And I would strongly suggest, if anyone's bought this kit or anything similar and they're not familiar with it, that they do so. In fact, even if you are familiar with it, you'll probably learn something. On to the actual build process then, starting with, amazingly, the cockpit. It's done in drawing form, note the style of figure, and words, so you've got both. And you've also got photographs throughout the instruction booklet of real aircraft and or figures from air publications of the time. Next up, assembling the pilot's seatbelt assembly and lap belts. Then mounting parts to the sidewalls, again with figures from the APs. Instrument panel construction down there. Instrument panel decals, nice colour photo there of an instrument panel, and more photos of internal areas. Period photograph, in fact, that one is. Mounting of instrument panel and closing of the fuselage, that being that centre section. Nose assembly. Pretty simple stuff. Insert the exhaust mounts and then fit the exhaust. Build tip: use the extra blades provided, not those in box A, as the mount stubs on those are too short, so that's why we had extra exhaust pieces, propeller blades, sorry. Rear fuselage assembly, Rear decking options detailed here. You can have it in the lowered position or the raised position. I believe I'm right in saying with the Defiant that the two fairings were interlocked with the mechanism of the turret mechanically, so they would raise and lower with rotation of the turret. It was all automatic. So if you want to be absolutely accurate about that, you're going to need to model it off a specific photo, unless you do actually have detailed knowledge of that mechanism, which tells you where these fairings should be at any given point in the rotation of the turret. Okay, carrying on. Fuselage, main assembly, then inner wings, outer wing assembly, pretty simple stuff. Okay, another build tip. We have separate landing lights because the original ones don't fit. Please use alternative parts. Okay, so that's why they're there. There's a photo of the real one down here. These are the aerials. This is the one mounted in the rear fuselage, and you could see this one is retracted and this one is the one underneath the wing. So showing the fitment of undercarriage parts and doors and things. Build tip there, remove paint from the undercarriage mount pin as they are a very tight fit. Be careful. As I say, this is the kind of thing where if you're busily trying to shove your undercarriage leg into that hole and it's a bit tight, stop it. You could very easily break this on the on trying to then remove the undercarriage leg again. So these build tips are worth taking notice of. What have we got here? Then we're going on to the turret parts, turret assembly. Again, words and it can't be clearer, and backed up with photographs of the real thing. Just checking for paint call outs. Maybe they're at the back. Yeah, they must be. We'll get to that then. So building up the turret, doing the turret glazing. More period photographs, more photos of the aircraft that's currently at Cosford. Finally, add the turret and glazing and decking and some more period photos. Then we move on to markings, interior and stencils. Templates for acetate clear parts. So some of the clear parts are supplied as a flat piece of acetate, which we'll see in a moment. Here are templates for cutting those out. Paint numbers for grey, green and aluminium in Guns, Humbrol, Model Master, Tamiya, Vallejo Model Air, AK Real Colour, Ammo by MiG, Mr Paint and Extra Colour for these. And there are notes on the colourings. Basic cockpit colour almost universally across RAF combat aircraft was grey green, which as its name implies was a slightly lightened and dulled out green. Turret is black, it's all blackety black, black, black. Landing gear would have originally had aluminium wheel wells, legs and undercarriage door interfaces. The black aircraft did get overpainted with black, so again blackety black, black, black if that's the way you choose to go. Stencil placements all shown here for your standard stencils of the time. Then we're on to the notes for the markings which are included in the kit. The first one is L7021 PSH. This is the one featured on the box art and is in the standard Battle of Britain period temperate day scheme. Or temperate land scheme, my bad. Which is dark earth and dark green over sky, and again the call outs down here for all those different manufacturers. Super nice touch here. Masks download. Scan the thingy. So do the scan thing, go to the link and you can download masks that you can then cut if you're one of these people that can do that kind of thing. That is a free download and it requires you to register to that site to do it. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an option to buy them for those of us that can't cut our own masks. But I'm sure there are enough people out there that can, that you could get a favour off of someone down the club or something. Second aircraft, V1125. And this is an all black night fighter, and this is quite an interesting one. It's one of the ones where the fuselage roundel has been blacked out or dulled down to reduce visibility, but it also has a spinner spiral, and as such it's a rarity amongst RAF aircraft for sure. The aircraft profiles were done with thanks by Darren Pryor. And then on the back page, some photographs, appropriately mostly of PS aircraft, but that is a black one. Crew tribute. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. A very nice touch. Beautiful instruction booklet. That then leads me on to the accessory pack, decals, etc. And what we're getting here, there's a few bits and bobs. In an emergency, break glass. So this is saying if you've got problems, email him. And he'll sort it, and he will. Got masks here pre-cut for the transparent parts. They are the vinyl kind, but it's quite thin, and the turret ones are sectioned so that they should fit okay. This is the acetate sheet for those transparencies that you need to cut yourself. And here, a set of Sutton harnesses. This is for the pilot. These are a work of art in and of themselves. You get essentially a little piece of sort of papery, fabricy type stuff, which is laser cut into strips, and then you also get a couple of little photo etch frets, which include all the buckles and even the rivets, and you thread your little pieces of paper through all these buckles and you glue on all those rivets to make a set of ludicrously detailed and beautiful Sutton harness straps. And this is the generic 32nd scale RAF Sutton set that off the Airscale site. Now the kit does not include a separate set or provision for the gunner. The gunner just had a lap strap, and I mentioned this to Peter and he quite correctly pointed out that there's actually enough spare stuff in this set to make them yourself, and it would have added yet more cost had he gone to the trouble of making an entire separate set just for the gunner's seat strap basically. So that's why there isn't one. I think there's also the assumption that if you're a modeller that's at a level that can deal with all this in the first place, you're probably also going to be able to deal with making a lap strap up for yourself out of bits and pieces. Again, I mean no offence by that. Okay, here's the decal sheet. if you want to use decals. And this is printed by Fantasy Print Shop, and Fantasy Print Shop decals are absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, Fantasy Print Shop are going out of business, so this might be the only set that we get from them. Here you can see all the stencils, spinner spiral, main markings, blacked out markings for the black one, instrument panel and dial decals and stuff for around the cockpit. It's all here. Very, very good quality looking. Very, very good indeed. It's a real shame that Fantasy Print Shop are leaving us. So that's what you get in the box. But the thing is, I'm still not done, because as I already mentioned, I got my kit and was initially a little disappointed because a few of the parts weren't really up to the standard I was expecting. So I contacted Peter, and he was extremely accommodating. Extremely generous, and supplied replacement parts for all the bits that I was worried about. No quibble, no messing, and as I say, offered me a full refund on the kit if I didn't think it was for me. And he mentioned in the phone call that we had that he went to very great lengths actually to ensure that this kit was something that he was prepared to put his name to, and that the quality was at a level that was suitable for that. And again, I'd recommend a visit to LSP and look up Peter's post. I think he posts under the name of Airscale there. And look at some of his builds, because that will give you a good idea of what his standards actually are. So, yeah, overall then, he's had a pretty positive reaction. The initial batch of kits that were put up for sale on Friday, June 6th, a significant date obviously, sold very, very quickly, I think within about an hour. Obviously I was lucky enough to get one, and I did go through the same process as everyone else, and I did pay for the kit with my own actual real money. There's been one or two sort of quibbles here and there. He's refunded I think at least one person, no questions asked. But beyond that, as he said, this is a developing technology, especially in the context of producing a whole kit like this, and he had 3 pre-production kits built, 2 of which he has done, and a third which has been done by Olga, also visible on the Large Scale Planes site, as is the build which is ongoing by Ian Ogilvie from here in the UK. That's also either a pre or an early production sample that was sent to him. So yeah, that's all available. But those three pre-production builds, one undercarriage leg on one of those builds has developed a little bit of a sagatron. So Peter went ahead and redid the undercarriage legs, and he's done a recall on all the kits that have already been bought, mine included. Essentially, he has sent out, completely free of charge and unsolicited, this, and it contains 2, obviously, idiot, brand new undercarriage legs, and these have been printed from another material which is stronger again, and this is the strongest print material that he is able to print with the machines he has, and he's confident that these will in fact be strong enough and won't sag or bend under the weight of the model. And remember, the weight of the model is relatively high compared to an injection moulded plastic kit. And yes, this has all been done off his own back. Nobody complained about this. This is something he spotted. He went ahead and fixed it and sent out new parts, and included in the new parts are 2 brass tubes and an amendment leaflet. The brass tube is for insertion into the leg. thus. And upon doing this, it's notable that the printed area, the compression area of the leg, I don't know if that's even going to be really visible, is so thin that you can see the glint of the brass tube through it. But yes, the brass tube would be strong, plenty strong enough in and of itself anyway. So hopefully that will solve that particular problem. But the impressive thing to me is the whole product recall and sent out new parts to everybody without asking first, without waiting to see if anyone else had a problem. No messing around. And then included in that package, another extra, a set of mirrors, or mirrors if you're American or Irish. Not just for ladies, like Yorkies I presume. We missed this first time around, so try your luck with this super fragile part attached to the rear of the canopy frame. And it's a nice 3D printed, obviously, replacement, well, a new part. It's a little rail, canopy rail with two mirrors included. Again, unsolicited, sent out with the updated undercarriage legs. So no complaints from me. I was in two minds, honestly, whether to actually even do a video review on this kit. Not because I don't think it's worth it clearly is, but because I questioned in my own mind the validity of me doing a video review for the consumption of you, my viewers, on a kit that isn't something you can even buy, because that production run has sold out. There aren't any more. It does entail a considerable amount of time and effort to print these things out. He mentioned that this rear fuselage section takes 17 hours to print, and he can print 7 at a time. In that 17 hours he prints off 7 rear fuselages, and he has a wastage rate of around 30%, so maybe 6 a day can be printed. Huge expense in materials and in time to get these parts made. He has spent the last months basically making up enough sets of parts to put that 100 kit run up for sale when he did. But there will be more. The kit is currently available to pre-order on his website. So if you do think you want one, having seen this, or indeed any of the other reviews and builds, then go off to the Airscale site. Again, I'll put a link down there for that, and get one pre-ordered. The value for money part of it is going to be a completely personal thing. Ultimately, £300 for any kit is a substantial amount of money in anybody's book. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, £300 is a lot to spend, and I'm absolutely aware that a large proportion of the people watching this video probably aren't in a position to spend £300 on a single kit, and I understand that, and that's another reason why I wasn't sure about making this video. But I've done it because this represents a step change for production kits in my mind. This is, as I said at the beginning of the video, Airscale is a one-man band. It is one man with some printing machines churning this out. It's an incredible achievement for one person to have produced this, to have done the research, to have done the design, to have commissioned all of these things, every single part, these cards, the instruction booklets, the boxes, the artwork, all of that has been set in motion by one man. It is, to my mind, a huge achievement to have got this to market at all, never mind to have got this to market in such a good state. I have seen many other small manufacturers that have got kits to market, but none of them have been anywhere near the level that this is. So yeah, the price is the price. It has to be. He doesn't have the economies of scale that larger sort of well-established kit manufacturers have. He doesn't have the access or the investment potential to, or perhaps doesn't choose to invest the amount of money that it would take to have, he wonders if maybe more professional level or commercial level printing machines might be able to alleviate some of the printing issues. But we agree on one thing, and that is that a complete 3D printed kit probably isn't the ultimate best way forward, because of the problems of production, because of the fact that the parts do have those slight variables and vagaries, and the fact that it does require a decent amount of skill to get the best out of this media. And because of that, the next kit, because there is another kit coming, the Typhoon, are also available for viewing on his website, will not be fully 3D printed. The Typhoon will have standard injection moulded fuselage and wings, so the main airframe parts will be injection moulded on that kit, and they're going to be produced by the same people that have produced the glazing for this kit to an exceptional standard, with beautiful surface detail. And because it's injection moulded, and because he doesn't have to worry about the fact that it's got to be sanded, that those parts will have raised and recessed detail as appropriate. And the best news of all, probably for most of us, is that that kit, he hopes, will be somewhat cheaper than this one. So the vision for that kit is major parts moulded with injection plastic and transparencies, of course, and then a slew of 3D printed parts, much like this one is, to bring the detail levels up, and it has been designed that way from the get-go. It should also be a slightly bigger initial production run, so it might be a little bit easier to get hold of in the shorter term, and he hopes, and I stress that this is a hope, to have some sort of prototype may be available for viewing at Telford, and maybe a release around about year end, hopefully. So there you have it. That this is the Airscale 1/32 3D printed Defiant. It's not perfect, but it is very, very good. So in my mind, as long as the modeller takes on board what I've said here, takes on board what is said on the Airscale site, and there is a little bit of expectation management and appreciation that some effort is going to need to go into this, I can't see anybody being disappointed with it. The price is the price. If you're fortunate enough to be able to afford it and you want it, verbal shrug, what can you do? I don't think it's excessive when you take into account all the factors that there are to be taken into account here. All in all, I am happy to have it. As I say, I have developed quite an appreciation for the aircraft through my efforts with the Airfix kit. The Airfix kit is the second Defiant I've built. There's a third one half built in my stash, and this is a fourth one. So I do hope to be able to build it at some point in the relatively near future, because it's so beautiful and it's just making me want to build it. It's making me want to get started on it, but I've got a queue and I've got things I have to get done, so I can't crack into it straight away. And like, in the same vein that I wasn't sure whether I should even review it, and for the same reasons, I'm not really even sure if it should be content on the channel, because I don't want to be accused of, elitism or producing stuff and content that people can't aspire to themselves, because that's not what I'm about. But I'd like to say thank you very much to Peter for his time and for agreeing to talk to me on the phone about the kit and about his future plans and everything else. It was a thoroughly pleasant half an hour's chat. Thank you all for watching. Thank you very much. I hope it's been of some interest or some use, if it happens that any of you are on the fence about maybe dropping a pre-order for one of these kits. I was very tempted to look at getting a Luftwaffe Grumman Duck. That's another aircraft that's very much in my wheelhouse, and another 1/32 scale 3D printed kit. which is a commercial product rather than, I don't think Peter will mind me saying this, more of a sort of cottage industry product, industry commercial product. But they also aren't very cheap, and I don't necessarily have the funds really to just drop that much on another kit. I might ask if they'd be willing to send a review sample, but I'm a little bit unwilling to do that due to the value of it. So for now, this is the only 3D kit I've got to look at and to talk about. I'd be very interested in the views of you guys, what you think about the media and whether you think it's the way forward or not. But as I said, thank you very much for watching, if only for interest's sake. And with all of that said, I think it only remains for me to say, until next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, and Genesis out.